Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Is today's housing market stuck in some sort of odd, mystical 1980s time warp where we're seeing the same challenges today as we saw back in the 80s? And when I say that, we're talking about elevated interest rates, lack of affordability, low inventory, and slow existing sales. And of course, we're also dealing with similar demographic changes where a large number of people are moving into their prime home buying age. So in today's video, I have a great article to share with you out of Sacramento Appraisal Blogs that provides some really excellent context as to where the housing market was in the 1980s. And it provides a great reminder that the challenges that we're facing in the housing market, they do not last forever. So you're not going to want to miss that. But before we get into it, press that like button, consider subscribing. It helps grow and promote the channel. And I do appreciate your support. All right, so let's jump right into it. We got the article from Sacramento Appraisal Blogs written by Ryan Lundquist, titled "The Housing Market Has 1980s Vibes." And what he's done is he's pulled some headlines and newspaper articles from more than 40 years ago to show similarities in what we're seeing in today's housing market. All right, so let's jump right into the first article here, dated Thursday, November 13th, 1980. Headline: California faces still worsening housing shortage. And if we jump right into the article, it says California faces a mind-boggling housing shortage that will worsen before it improves. And according to this gal here, the VP and housing analyst for the bank, she said in Sacramento that several trends indicate the situation may improve in the long term based on some favorable trends. And she listed innovative mortgage instruments, an easing of restrictive land use policies, and a growing receptiveness to alternative forms of housing, such as condominiums and mobile homes. Now, I'll pause there for a second. Let me know in comments below, does any of this sound familiar? When I read this, what stands out to me is these restrictive land use policies. And one of the things that California has done over the most recent couple of years is they've made it significantly easier to provide affordable housing in the form of ADUs or additional dwelling units. However, she said a reduction in inflation is crucial because inflation forces increases in mortgage rates and construction loan rates, as well as interest rates in general. Sound familiar? The article goes on to say that California house building for 1980 was running at an annualized rate of about 90,000 units. That's down 38% year over year. And the shortage is a major factor in California's high home prices. The average price of a new home in California is currently at $116,300, far above the national average at $75,900. So what happened here? Well, according to the VP of the bank, we saw large population increases, a rising number of smaller households, an unprecedented jump in the number of first-time home buyers, and housing's new reputation as an investment, as an inflation hedge, all contributed to the shortage. In other words, there's been an increase in real estate investing. Even though this article is written specifically about California, it seems eerily similar to some of the challenges that we're facing in today's housing market. All right, now check out this headline, dated Sunday, May 25th, 1980. Sales slump is blamed on the Feds Overkill. A record decline in existing home sales volume was attributed to the Federal Reserve overkill by the California Association of Realtors. Now, this article quotes the president of the California Association of Realtors saying that the magnitude of this slowdown is even more obvious in the year-to-year comparison. Existing home transactions in March 1980 declined a whopping 31.8% from March of 1979. And the article continues saying that in the Central Valley, relative affordability and buoyant local economies produced a 3.5% increase in price to just over about $62,000, which is an 8.6% increase over March of 1979. So in other words, existing home sales have slowed down or even crashed dramatically from where they were a year prior, while at the same time, home prices have actually gone up. So what do you guys think of this? Does this sound oddly similar to what we're facing in today's housing market? Leave me a comment below. And the very last article that I think is worth touching on is this one, dated Sunday, March 1st, 1981, In Search of the Affordable Home. And this article highlights what you're going to find in the housing market is an enormous pent-up demand waiting to be served, but finding no service at all. They are a huge group, the boom babies of the 1950s, the baby boomers. And they desperately want housing. Well, that is if they can get the financing, which in turn is the greatest challenge to the home mortgage industry today. And with a quick search on Google, I found this. Despite mortgage rates hitting 18% by late 1981, some 45% of boomers, baby boomers here, were able to buy their first home between the ages of 25 and 34. Now, of course, we're nowhere near 18% mortgage rates today, but it is all relative. The average 30-year fix today is hovering at about 6.9%. It's substantially higher than where it was a few years ago. And demographically speaking, millennials are one of the largest cohorts, and they are moving well into their prime home buying age. And with that, I'll leave you with a few closing thoughts from this article. Number one is affordability today is a challenge. It's no joke. It's comprised of three main functions. We have home prices, we have mortgage rates, which equate to the monthly payment, and then we have incomes here as well. And unfortunately, we're facing challenges in all three of those categories. We have higher home prices, we have high mortgage rates, and incomes have simply not kept pace. And what it's done is it's set aside a large amount of that buyer pool, essentially sidelighting them. And according to this article, we're missing about 40% of local buyers from the pre-2020 normal. And number two, which I think is a great reminder, is that every generation struggles. And the author of this article notes that it's easy to feel alone in the struggle to afford, but there is something maybe mildly comforting about seeing that affordability has not always come easily through the decades. In other words, you're not alone. And the truth is, it's really easy to feel overwhelmed with housing headlines today. And while it may be more challenging in today's housing market, many of these narratives have existed in the past. And eventually things will turn around. And lastly, there is hope, and we need to try our best not to get discouraged. History tends to rhyme, and one thing about the housing markets is they are always changing. And a broker friend of his told him last year, the good markets don't last, but neither do the bad ones. All right, and that's gonna wrap it up for today's video. I hope you found some valuable insight, maybe some good context, and I hope that it provides a little bit of hope that the challenges that we're facing today, eventually they will pass too, and market conditions will improve. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you haven't done so already, consider pressing that like button and subscribing. We'll see you on the next video. Take care.